You're listening to Speaking Stellar Girl with Teri and Elisabeth, an interview series that inspires women to live their most stellar life. Teri is the co-founder of the Stellar Girl movement, and she is sitting down with women all over the world to hear about the key moments in their lives and how they live boldly, compassionately, and ultimately became a stellar girl.
Welcome to Speaking Stellar Girl. I'm your host, Teri and Elisabeth, and I'm thrilled today to have Elisabeth Jones-Hennessy joining me. Elisabeth is a former buyer at Bergdorf Goodman and Saks Fifth Avenue, but she's now founded her own company called GiftMeChic, and it is where you find the perfect gifts for anyone in your life. She travels the world finding these treasures. And I love the concept. I love that you're so passionate about your business, and I can't wait to hear all about it. So welcome, Elisabeth. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to talk to you and be here for you. It's great.
Thank you. So let's go back just before we get into GiftMeChic, because that's where we're going to spend all of our time, because that's the present. Okay. And the present. But we're going to zip to the past really quick. Okay. And I'd like to ask you a little bit about your experience, like as a buyer for Bergdorf's and Saks, and what that taught you to, bring this company about, to find that perfect gift, find that perfect luxury gift.
Okay. Well, I guess without going, back. And I will say one thing, when I was in high school, I worked at a little store. I grew up in the town of Rye, and there was a little accessory store, and I had a part-time job after school. And that was my first foray into retail. And I really enjoyed it. I loved the customer experience. I loved working with the buyer and how she ran her business, and she would take me with her on buying trips. And that's what really piqued my interest into it as a career. I did my senior thesis on it. And then I went to college, and I sort of said, okay, I'm not sure. Graduated college, and I knew that's really where I wanted to start my career, really in the real world. And so I started in the wholesale side, and from there I then went through the Saks training program. Okay. And I spent 6 years at Saks. And I grew up. I like to say I grew up because throughout the years you go from different buying offices in different categories of the business. So I grew up really going through different fashion offices, and then I went into store planning, which is a lot of numbers. And then from there, when I became a buyer, I was in beauty accessories. Okay. So everything from hair clips to candles to niche perfume brands.
Fun stuff.
It was the fun stuff. It's all fun. I was happy not to be in men's socks. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes. Totally. Or umbrellas.
Oh, exactly. So I was very happy. And this is where I really learned the basics of how to be a buyer, how to run a retail business. And there's really a misconception out there that being a buyer is so glamorous and you get to go to all the fashion shows. And yes, that is a part of the job, but it's actually a very small part of the job. I'd say it's 10%. And the rest is really numbers, and running your numbers and making sure you're making your sales plans and your markdowns. So it ends up being quite stressful, and Saks in particular, because it is a public company. So, you really are held accountable for your numbers. Okay. So for me, that's where I really learned how to run a retail business from a business standpoint, frankly. Right. And so from Saks, I then went over to Bergdorf's, and I stayed in the beauty world. I was a beauty buyer. I had about half the floor. So I had big brands like Chanel, Bobbi Brown, Trish McEvoy, et cetera, all of fragrances. And again, it's really where I honed my skills. I think being at Bergdorf's I enjoyed it more, I'll say, from Saks, because Bergdorf's is one store. Our buying office was across the street. So we were in the store practically every day. I knew all of the sales associates. I was able to see the merchandise come in, get on the shelves, work with the vendors. So you're really much more, it's closer to having your own store. The most beautiful elevated store in the whole world. Yes. Yeah. Versus Saks, there were, at that time when I worked there were 45 stores. So the only store you're really experiencing is New York, other than traveling, which you didn't do much. Okay. So Bergdorf, because my dream had always been to have my own store, starting with this high school experience, Bergdorf's is where I got closer to that and really was more hands-on, which again, it's good to get your hands dirty and be in the stockroom if you need to, doing inventory, or going to a fashion show. This is all the facets of running a business. but I have never been an entrepreneur until now. And for me, that was a scary leap. I don't come from a family of entrepreneurs. So, my parents were very much like, hey, where's your 401k? And make sure you have all those things in place. But I ended up leaving Bergdorf's and I ended up joining a perfume brand called Kilian. Okay. And Kilian was a brand that I had launched at Bergdorf's exclusively, coming from Paris. And it was very exciting. The business took off right away. And a year later, Kilian, the owner, said to me, would you consider leaving Bergdorf's, opening my US subsidiary, and becoming my CEO for North America? And it was one of those moments in life that you see the train passing and you have to make a decision. Do I get on the train or not? So I was going through some personal changes at the time. So I said, okay, I'm going to make this professional change too. It's like diving into a pool and you can't see the bottom, but you just have to take the risk.
Yeah, take the jump.
Yeah. So I did. And for about 8 years, I was running Kilian, building the entire US market, opening Saks stores actually across the country outside of Bergdorf's, opening Holt Renfrew in Canada, and down in Mexico, opening some Saks stores.
I love Holt Renfrew.
It's a beautiful store.
Yes.
Yeah. Actually went to the one in Vancouver. It was gorgeous.
My favorite city in the world. Anyways, okay.
It's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
So this is, on the flip side, really where I gained wholesale experience and building a business from the ground up, which was different than retail, which had been my experience because those were businesses that already existed. So I had these two wonderful chapters of my career. Mm-hmm. And then Kilian was actually acquired by Estee Lauder in 2016. Okay. And for me, that was a moment to really say, what do I want to do now? Right. I went from being a buyer and then I went to building this, wholesale perfume brand. And I really did want to get back to retail and I really did want to have my own shop. But as we know, brick and mortar is really hard these days. Mm-hmm. So I knew that online was the way to go. When I looked at the space of what's out there, I've always loved fashion and accessories, but it's overpopulated. There's a lot out there. So I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to get into that game and start competing with Net-a-Porter and all the other things. But when I was thinking about what do I need, what do I see as being missing in the marketplace, for me, it was really about elevated gift giving. For me, when I was looking for gifts, I would go to a department store, to Saks or Neiman's, whatever, right, online, and weed through thousands of products, and I tried to say, okay, what would my mom want, for example, and what price point? And, it just becomes a bit overwhelming. And so I said to myself, this is something that I feel is missing, is a one destination for elevate. I don't want to use the word luxury because I feel like that makes it sound like everything's expensive and it's not. I have a $25 product that's beautiful and for an entry level gift, or I have a $10,000 diamond bracelet, so right. I run the gamut. But the difference for me is just being very curated, and it's almost like a concept store online.
It's beautiful. GiftMeChic.com is beautiful. And there are amazing gifts there.
I appreciate
100%. And all price points, there are some candles that, as you said, were $25 and then some that are more expensive and more luxurious, but you can definitely find something there for your mom, your sister, yourself, and right. Gift yourself.
And exactly. And that was the goal, to find something for all the different occasions. If you're going to someone's home, now that we're getting to the place of going back to dinner parties, you want to bring something small as a token to say thank you.
Of course.
Or then of course you go back to, the birthday of your significant other, and you want to do something that's a little more over the top. And I think because from what I found, I've done a lot of research in this space, mm-hmm. and what I haven't seen is actually somebody that you can go to as the trusted voice or person behind the gift giving space. And so this is where I really feel that there's a big opportunity. Because I've been a buyer, I know how to run a business. Moving into online, we were talking about technology before. That's been the biggest hump I've had to climb, because it's a whole new world. But that's
you're doing great at it though.
Thank you. I rely on a really wonderful team who helps me. I know how to run the business. I have, I find the products, and this is the part of the job I love. That's my passion. But then I have team members who know about the e-commerce technology side or know about the marketing piece. Mm-hmm. And that's, I'm so grateful to them. So, we're a small team, but everyone has their strengths, and that's how we come together to to make it happen. And this is just the beginning. I launched in November, and I see so much more potential. So it's like, I like to walk before I run though. So I'm kind of
Well, congratulations, because that's super exciting. And you've built a huge community online, and your social presence is well known. The website is beautiful. I loved how you went through the steps, because you answered my next two questions without me having to ask them, which is a great thing. Because in my head, I'm like, oh, I'm going to ask her, like, how that made her get into what she's doing now. What was the most important thing, before launching your own business? And I thank you so much.
I guess that was a mouthful. So
that's great. You're here to chat with, all things Stellar Girl, and definitely starting a business and starting over again and reinventing yourself is stellar. So
thank you.
That's awesome. That was a great story. So thank you for sharing that. But have you had any, negative pitfalls? Has there been, anything that you would say that you had to overcome with GiftMeChic?
I'd say, okay, from a high level perspective, I would say, the fear,
right?
The fear of starting a new business and taking that risk, financially, number one, number two, just from your own confidence standpoint. I know I can do this, but then you have those little voices that are, what if, So for me, that was the biggest obstacle to overcome, is really finding the confidence and the trust in myself to just do it. Right. And then within GiftMeChic, of course, there's little things that, that go wrong, and then you learn from them,
Right.
So for example, in the beginning, I launched a brand and I did it sort of on the fly. I hadn't done as much homework into it or tested the products as much as I should have. And somebody ordered an item, a gift, and they received it, and it was someone I knew. So she had the comfort level to say to me, hey, I received this, and it, was missing a portion of something. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Let me contact the vendor. And the vendor said, oh, we're so sorry. We'll send a new one. And then my friend called me again, and she's like, I got the new one, but this is what it looked like. And it was another issue. And again, luckily I knew her, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I'm going to contact the brand. And unfortunately I had to exit the brand from GiftMeChic. I had to tell them that I couldn't work with them anymore.
Right.
So it was difficult, because I was disappointed that had to happen. But it was a learning experience for me, do a little more digging before you take on a new brand to make sure that the quality is what I expect and what my customers should expect from GiftMeChic.
And it takes them, when they enter your website, it takes them directly to the vendor's site.
So no, my site is the main site that they shop from.
Okay.
So, and there's two different ways that I have the business set up. One of them is drop ship. So the way that works is the customer comes, they find whatever it is they want. Mm-hmm. That order, and typically then gets generated over to the vendor. The vendor ships it to the customer, but I'm the point of contact with the customer.
Okay, perfect.
In other cases, I own the stock. So there's certain things, here I am sitting in my home office, also known as the fulfillment center. And, but all hands on deck.
Yes.
And in some cases, then if I own the inventory, I'll ship it directly to the customer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, both ways of doing it. So
exactly.
I mean, I don't want to go on Amazon. I want to sell it I want to ship it myself. I want to experience all of that. I want to, get my hands dirty, go to the post office 10 times a day, like do it all.
Right.
Or the UPS store, wherever,
Yeah, exactly.
And packaging it all up. And people forget about all that. Like the boxing, the wrapping, the tissue, how it looks when you get it is so important as well.
It's true.
And what type of design boxes does GiftMeChic use? Does it use like the retailers originally, or is it yours? Is it your packaging?
It depends. So if it's coming from the brand, it's theirs, and there's an invoice and a little card with GiftMeChic co-branded.
Okay.
If it's coming from me, I'm still finalizing all the packaging. It's a little complicated because all the different sizes of boxes and shopping bags. So that's a big investment that I'm looking to enhance as I move forward, looking for investors, frankly. But right now I have these beautiful bows and the tissue and all the things. So it really does look beautiful when the customer receives it, but I want to take it to the next level.
That's awesome. And you mentioned earlier your team. So is it a group of women with you? Do you have, who's supporting you in your business and your journey?
I have a group. I have a small group of women. One of them, my first started as an intern, and she's now been promoted to be the marketing coordinator.
Love that.
She's excellent, and I'm so grateful to have her. The other person I have is a content and editorial director. So she really oversees the site, and she's the one that puts the puts the pages together aesthetically, with all of the copy, really making sure that the site is running perfectly. So the two of them, the three of us, they're like my work wives.
Yes.
And we all keep it moving. We all keep it moving forward. And then right now I have a strategist who's helping me with my financials, because I'm putting together my business plan, as I mentioned, and I'm going to start fundraising. So, there's there's very important people in my life right now who are helping me, keeping the train running, and then hopefully getting it to move faster as time goes on.
That's awesome. So we at Stellar Girl are all about supporting other women, championing ourselves first, and then with that strength, we're able to support each other. So, but how can we better champion women?
Oh, I think there's so many ways to support each other, on a very basic level. I'm the type of person that I just genuinely love women, and I want to compliment women. I want to, connect people with other people I know. I want to, with my friends, I would like to be there as much as I possibly can, supporting them. We all have so much in our lives. We're juggling so much.
Yes.
Even this morning, I said to my friend, I had something to pick up from her, and we said, great, let's have a coffee. And it's at like 1 hour, morning, first thing in the morning. That just means so much. We fill each other up. We encourage each other. We say, who do I know? Who can I connect it to? Talking about what's happening in our lives, and then you start your day. And for me, it's just really, really important to support each other, to think about what's happening in each other's lives. And one of the things I love, as I mentioned, is connecting.
Yes.
So, and again, there's a multitude of ways to support each other, but I'm very much a proponent of that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
So if you mentioned that you travel a lot to find your curated gifts for GiftMeChic.
Yeah.
So I know that probably slowed down quite a bit last year, or even like you launched and you found all these gifts prior to launching. So what does it look like now? And are you traveling now?
I'm not traveling now. Before I was in Paris quite often. So I was finding a lot of things there. And then traveling, with my future ex-husband, we were traveling a lot with his job, and I was able to work remotely. So it also gave me the opportunity to go to new places. And, anytime I go to a new city, I'm like, okay, what am I going to eat? I want to try their food, and I want to see what shops they have.
Yeah. And buy from independent and indie boutiques and the artists in there, whether they're art, whether they're sculptors or they paint or they make clothing or candles or jewelry, you have everything on your site. So it's fun to find that locally and then bring it back here.
Very much so. I love that. That sense of discovery is really one of my biggest joys. And so besides the travel, there's also a wonderful show twice a year in Paris. It's called Maison and Objet. So it's home and object, and brands from all over the world come in. It's huge. It's like 8 halls in a giant convention center, and it takes 3, 4, 5 days to go through everything and look at everything. I find a lot of brands there, and I always really look forward to going. And so they just announced their dates for September, and I went on to Air France immediately and bought my tickets.
Fantastic.
They had canceled January, and I think they'd canceled last year, September. So this is the first time that's coming back. So that's exciting.
So you speak French, Maison and Objet. Alors,
a little bit, un petit peu. Yeah, I can get by.
Okay.
My ex-husband is French, so that's why it's in Paris quite often. And the other thing, but during COVID, to your point, it has been more difficult. So there's been 2 avenues that have been really important for me, and one of them is friends. Again, women supporting women, and a lot of my friends have amazing tastes. I trust them immensely. And they'd say, hey, Elisabeth, I know this really great card brand, stationery brand coming out of Norway. and then connect me, and then we move forward if there's a good fit. The other thing is, I know we were talking about this earlier, is Instagram. I've actually found some really great brands on Instagram, and we DM and we connect and we move forward. So you have to get a bit creative, during this time, but there's ways to do it still in a fun way.
Yeah. Do you have a particular person in mind when you're curating, as you just mentioned, your gifts? Like, do you think, okay, like mothers, sisters, daughters, men, children, like, is it, is there anyone specific that you kind of go or tap into that makes you want to purchase and work with that particular brand?
Are you talking about customers, like the type of customer?
Or yes, but someone that you would think of like in your life that you would curate a gift for.
Okay. There's so many people. I think about my best friend, for example, or, a few of my best friends. I think about, who are they? What is their lifestyle? What is their fashion style? Do they like to be social? Do they like to stay home? It's really thinking about the people in your life and what would they like? And then sort of following that track. And then on top of it, what's your budget? So that's an important piece about it. So that's really, and on top of it, the majority of people in my life are really busy. They're professionals, or even if they don't have a job, maybe they're mothers, whatever it is, they're busy. So the goal is to help busy people, make finding gifts easier, and really, again, make it easier in their lives to find what they're looking for without a huge, treasure hunt. Multiple websites.
I absolutely love the human connection of your company because, they can go to you, they trust you. And that's incredibly important. And having that human connection back after not being around everybody that we love so much, it's so important. And so thank you so much for joining me at Speaking Stellar Girl. You've spoke a lot of stellar today. I really appreciate that. You've motivated me. I've learned so much about your business, and I hope our listeners will too. It's GiftMeChic.com, very simple. And you get to connect with you specifically if you're looking for something. You answer your DMs, you get to, and you can direct them in the right spot. And I love that. And I love your company, and I love that you're passionate about it and that you took that leap and created a brand that you love. And that's awesome.
No, thank you. And I'm really flattered to be on Stellar Girl with you and to get to know you. And obviously what you're doing is very exciting. So congratulations to you. It'll be fun to watch each other grow as time goes on.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. And we will see you on the other side.
Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit that bell icon to be notified of new episodes. To learn more about the Stellar Girl movement, please visit us at STELLARGIRL.com.